All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Mihaela Schwartz, and I will be the one hosting you. This is month 4, which is hard to believe. We've been doing this for the last 3 months. This is month 4 of our training that we conduct with caregivers. I am a BCBA, and I'm licensed in the state of Wyoming, and I work with GATE. So I'm very excited to lead this discussion. This month, we're going to talk about daily routines and consistency. And we're going to look at what are routines, what do we mean, when we say daily routines specifically, why are they important, how do they work, and then we're going to look at the word consistency and what it actually means in terms of working with children or dealing with children at home. So that's going to be the focus of this month's presentation. I'm going to review real quick some of the things that we covered in month 1, 2, and 3, just in case you weren't with us. We have these available as they were recorded in the past. So if you want them, you can just reach out and I will be glad to share them with you. Month 1, we kind of looked at what is ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. What is it? We broke it down. We talked about what kind of science it is, what is how we use the strategies from that science, how behavior works, what are the ABCs of behaviors, why are those important. We talked about positive routines, teaching through everyday moments. Then we moved on in month 2 and started talking about reinforcement. What is reinforcement? What does it mean? How do you identify what motivates your child? How to use praise and daily routines to build new skills. And then we moved on last month to where we talked about functional communication. How do we teach a child to communicate their wants and needs in appropriate ways rather than through behaviors, rather than throw a tantrum? How do we teach a child to use their words and tell you what it is that they want or what they need? We talked about how to replace behaviors that are problematic, like a tantruming behavior, crying, whining, other inappropriate behaviors, how to replace those with behaviors that are a lot more acceptable and more appropriate. And then we looked at understanding why behaviors happen, and we had a whole discussion about basically behavior being able to break it down into just 4 functions. And then once you recognize that function, it's really, really easy to think of ways to replace that behavior with an alternate behavior. So this month, we're going to look at daily routines and why they matter. Why are we even talking about routines? Why do we see routines discussed in everyday life, not just in terms of ABA or dealing with children? But basically, the biggest takeaway, if anything, is that when you create routines, you are creating a strong foundation for success for anything and anyone. For example, one of my routines is I like to run every day. And having that routine every day somehow sets me up for a good day. I look at that as that's my start to the day. It means something to me, and it's setting me up to have a good day. I think of other people who enjoy making their bed before they leave in the morning, washing your face. All of these routines are very important to us as humans. It's something that gives us some sense of control over our life, and they become very important. It's the same for children as well. So what is a daily routine? Well, just as I mentioned with the few examples that I gave, when you're talking about routine, you're talking about a repeated sequence of activities, certain things that you're going to do in a certain time frame. They usually happen at a similar time each day, unless you've got to shift things around. And we're going to talk about that too, being flexible. And a routine has very clear expectations. I expect that every day, these are the things that I will be accomplishing before 10 a.m., let's say. Examples, you have a morning routine, you have a mealtime routine, bedtime routine, and transition routines. All these routines that we engage in throughout our day help us manage our day so that no matter what happens, no matter unexpected events, no matter what is going to happen, it gives you a sense of control. It gives you a sense of knowing what's going to happen next. And that is very, very comforting to us as humans because we have very little control. So the little bit that we can eke out by creating routines gives us a lot of comfort and makes us feel better. And it's the same for children. Children enjoy routines. For example, I'm going to give you something that maybe you haven't thought about, but one of the toughest times for the children that we work with, children on the autism spectrum, is usually Christmas time, because all of a sudden at school, they're not doing things like always. The routines have all been altered. There are activities and things happening every day that they're just not used to. And instead of those things bringing, I don't know, joy or excitement, for the children on the spectrums who are even less flexible than the average child, those things are messing up the routines that make them feel very comforted. So we see more behaviors and just not being able to understand. So in a way, those kids are examples of what happens to us when we don't have routines in place and everything just kind of gets turned around and all of a sudden we're doing things that we're not used to doing. So that's why these routines are so important. They're very comforting, they're very structured, give us some sense of control. How do routines support behavior? Well, routines help children. They know what's going to come next. They're very clear on what is expected. That's not a guessing game. They know, okay, it's 7 o'clock. When mom tells me it's 7 o'clock, that means I got to go brush my teeth. And then that means I got to wash my face and I got to put my pajamas on. I'm going to get in bed. Mom's going to come read me a story and then I go to bed. There's a lot of comfort in knowing what to expect. There's no big unknown. This is what's going to happen. And it makes me feel comforted. Use learned skills without reminders and decrease power struggles. If I know that at 7 p.m. every day I have to go brush my teeth and there's a series of routine steps that are going to occur, then I'm not going to want to engage in tantruming, screaming, crying, because I know that's what's expected of me. I know that this happens every day. Today is no different, so go brush my teeth. The takeaway from this is predictable environments. In other words, knowing what's expected, knowing what's going to happen, they reduce problem behaviors. You know that's going to happen, so you're okay with it. You've learned that this is the routine. You've learned these are the expectations from me every night. So I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to tantrum when I'm told to go brush my teeth. But think of the alternative. If you're not told to go brush your teeth every day at 7 p.m., sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 8. Now your expectations are very different. You don't know when it's going to happen. So maybe now you're in the middle of playing a game and parent says, go brush your teeth. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to cry. I'm going to throw a tantrum because I wasn't expecting you to say that because yesterday was at 8 p.m. So you see how having those routines are helping with the reduction of problem behaviors. Expectations matter, routines matter, and keeping those routines can make a really big difference in problem behaviors. Consistency goes hand in hand with routines. In other words, it can't be a routine if you're not consistent with it. If you're only going to do it once a week and not be consistent, then it can't possibly be a routine. So let's talk a little bit about consistency. It means that every time you're going to respond the same way, you're going to use the same language, you're going to follow through on the expectation, and you're going to reinforce the behavior that you want every single time that it occurs. It's not perfection. None of us are perfect. We're only human, but it is a commitment to trying to be as consistent as possible. Again, it's not perfection. It's commitment. Life happens. Maybe today was a bad day for me at work. Maybe today I didn't notice it was 7 p.m. to tell my kids to go brush their teeth until it was 7:15. But at 7:15, I can at least use the same language that I've been using all this time at 7 p.m. and I can say, go brush your teeth. Now, one of my kids may be smart enough to look at the clock and go, but it's 7:15. Why do I have to go now? You know what? My bad. I thought it was 7. I missed it. It's 7:15. So now it's time to do our daily routine for evening. So I need you to go brush your teeth. And that's going to shut it down. I've set the expectation. I said, hey, okay, I missed the original time, but the expectation remains the same. I'm consistent in what I expect. And I use the same language to go ahead and pull the trigger on that evening routine. Again, following through on your expectation and reminding them what's expected, reminding them of this is what we do every evening, using that same language and then reinforcing it. Great job, you brushed your teeth. All right, let's put your pajamas on and let's go read the book. Again, routine. And it doesn't have to be what I'm saying, right? Your routine could be whatever or you need it to be. You may choose to read the book before the child brushes their teeth. That's up to you to figure out. It's just as long as there's a routine there, that's the most important takeaway I want you to get from these slides. Consistency across caregivers. It gets really complicated when you're talking about a child that maybe has a babysitter or has several caregivers that they're spending the night with at different times. It becomes really important to have consistency across all of these different people that are involved in your child's life. All the caregivers using the same rules, all the expectations being the same, regardless of who the caregiver is, regardless of what that caregiver's mood is, and that the reinforcement that the child is going to earn for following these routines is going to be delivered the same way by all the caregivers involved. Communicate expectations with anyone involved in care. And that sounds complicated, but it's actually quite simple if you think about it. Think about the babysitter comes for the evening and you're going to sit down with the babysitter or talk to the babysitter at some point, and you're probably going to go ahead and tell them the routine. And you're probably doing that already and not even realizing that that's what you're doing. But you're going to say, hey, I don't want to eat them candy an hour before they have to go to bed. Bedtime is at 7. Make sure they brush their teeth. Don't let them take their iPad to bed. So all you're really doing when you're doing that is communicating what the rules are. So this caregiver, in this case, the babysitter, knows exactly what needs to happen this evening and knows exactly what the routine is that they need to follow. And then you might tell the person, hey, if the kiddo brushes their teeth like they're supposed to, puts their pajamas on like they're supposed to, get in bed like they're supposed to, then he can have 10 minutes of Netflix before we turn the TV off. Again, you've now communicated exactly what the routine looks like, what the rules are, what the expectations are, and then what you expect the caregiver to deliver in terms of reinforcement for that particular routine that evening. We probably all as parents, when you've dropped your kid off for somebody else to watch for a day or two or for just for the evening, you probably all have done this and not even realized that in fact you're talking about consistency across caregivers and making sure that they too follow the routine that you're used to following. What happens if you don't have consistency? We talk about the importance of it. We talk about the importance of doing the same things as much as possible. What happens if you don't? Well, for one, the skills won't generalize. In other words, the child may learn that when mom says to go brush my teeth, I don't have to, because mom will fall asleep on the couch from being too tired and not even going to notice that I didn't brush my teeth. And then she wakes up and she's groggy and she just puts me to bed, right? So now the child knows, mom asks me to brush my teeth, I don't have to worry about it. However, if dad asks, then I know I got to do it because dad'll stay on me until I brush my teeth. So you want that consistency, or else the skill that they have, brushing their teeth, is not even going to generalize. Problem behavior will increase at home. Well, I don't want to do it. Mom said I don't have to do it. Dad said I don't have to do it. Now you're in this power struggle. Well, I say you got to do it. But why? Why do I have to do it? Because you say, because dad said I don't have to. Again, consistency in delivering that routine, consistency in making sure that child consistently follows the routine will help with generalization and will decrease the problem behaviors. And then ultimately think about it too. If you are not consistent, that child is not going to know what the expectation is. It's going to be confused. Does she want me to do it? Does she not want me to do it? I got away yesterday without doing, and now I'm in trouble for not doing it. And then ultimately the parent will feel frustrated because they're going to want that kid to do it and not understand why that kid is fighting back, why they're engaging in that problem behavior, and why they're not doing what you're asking them to do. So again, consistency is extremely important, consistency across caregivers, and then you yourself being consistent. I will say that it's really hard sometimes to be consistent when you yourself have had a day that maybe didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Now you're tired and you're frustrated. So being able to dig deep and keep that consistency with children sometimes can be really tough. But the payoff is huge because you're creating these skills. They're going to generalize, they're going to maintain, and you're going to reduce those problem behaviors by remaining as consistent as possible. Creating simple home routines, it sounds a lot more daunting than it actually is. Start small. Choose one or two things to focus on to begin with. Don't bite off a huge thing. Okay, we're going to routine out the whole day. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to make lists over lists of things that I want to happen and the certain order that. No, pick one, pick two, baby steps. Everything in ABA is baby steps, right? We start very small and then we just start building and building and building on it. So choose one or two routines to focus on. Could be something as simple as having a routine to make the bed in the morning before you leave. Have your child make their bed before they leave. Keep the steps very short, very, very clear. If you can pick that first routine to be something simple that only involves anything less than 3 or 4 steps, that would be a great start. And once you put that in place, it's going to be a lot easier to help, bring in more and more routines and add more and more steps for routines that are a lot more complex. Use visuals, checklists, verbal cues. Most kids love to draw. A lot of kids have incredible artistical talent if you just sit with them and draw a little bit. And they love making all kinds of charts, and they become stakeholders because now they made this chart. They take a lot of pride in it, and they love checking things off. And that checking off actually creates a reinforcement for the next time because it felt so good when I checked off Monday. So now I want to feel that good when I check off Tuesday. So you could work that into making a checklist or a visual for your kid in the room where it makes them feel really good. Okay, I did my routine. Examples of small routines that you can start with could be something as simple as washing your hands before dinner, or washing your hands after you use the bathroom, sitting at the table when you eat, eating, cleaning up after yourself, anything small, any tiny little routine that doesn't involve just a tremendous amount of steps is a good place to start, and offering a lot of positive reinforcement for that kid as they work through that routine. Mom, guess what? I made the bed this morning. This is my 4th time making it. I got 4 check marks. And then you can just be so excited about it. And it'll make that kiddo feel so good that they're going to want to get that feeling again and again and again. Using reinforcement, again, if you've been with us over the last 3 months, you know that at the root of everything, of every behavior we try to shape, every behavior we try to teach, every behavior we try to change to something positive from a negative, we use nothing but reinforcement to try to get there. And for it to be a reinforcer, it has to be something that makes the good behavior happen again. So reinforce following the routine, reinforce staying calm during transitions, using communication instead of behaviors. Anytime you tell a kiddo, okay, it's time to go brush your teeth, and they're not getting mad and they're not raising their voice and they just drop their iPad and get up to go brush their teeth, tell them, oh my gosh, I really love the way you just got up and went straight to the bathroom to do that. I really saw it and I am so appreciative. You did such a great job. Teach the child to use communication instead of behaviors. This is something that we spent last month on discussing. But let's say the kiddo is involved in a game or he's watching a video on YouTube and there's 2 minutes left on the YouTube video and you've given the prompt, okay, it's time to go brush your teeth. Teach your child to be able to say, Mom, there's only 2 minutes left on this video. Do you think it's okay for me to go ahead and finish it? Sure. Because guess what? He's used the words properly. He didn't get upset. There was no tantruming behavior. He didn't throw the iPad and say, no, I don't want to go. I had 2 more minutes. You've done it. He was able to communicate verbally, indicate wants and needs in an appropriate manner. 2 minutes is not going to destroy anything. And you can really agree, okay, no problem, 2 minutes. I'm going to set a timer right now. Timer goes up. 2 minutes is over. Go brush your teeth now. And then you've got a happy kid, you're happy, no behaviors, routine started, 2 minutes late, no problem. Teeth get brushed and bedtime happens. Make sure you praise verbally as much as possible. Great job finishing your routine. Access to a preferred activity. This is back to the example I used just a few minutes ago. If you do all of this, you could say you got 10 minutes of Netflix before we go to bed. Small rewards tied to completion. Doesn't have to be big. Whatever the reinforcers are for your child, you know your child better than anyone. You know what makes them smile. You know what rewards they enjoy. You know what it is that you can tie to a particular routine or for them completing something that's going to make them really good, feel really good once the routine is completed. So again, follow the routine, staying calm during the transition, and using communication instead of behaviors. All those things need to be reinforced heavily as you move through routines with your child. Now, I know this is going to sound a little weird because we've been talking about routines and consistency, and now I'm going to change gears just a little bit to talk about flexibility. There's a big difference between being consistent versus being rigid. Think of the example I gave about the kiddo watching the video, and in a very verbally appropriate manner, the child said, Mom, I've got 2 minutes left on my video. Can I watch 2 more minutes and then go brush my teeth? And my example, I said that I would go ahead and grant those 2 minutes without a problem. Because I'm not rigid, I'm consistent, but I'm willing to be flexible. So consistency does not mean rigid, does not mean that 7 o'clock, no matter what. It means that prepare your child for changes ahead of time. That also helps with consistency, but it also helps with flexibility. Something that we do in ABA interventions all the time is called priming. And let's say we have a child that really struggles with any time we tell them to stop doing this and go do something that maybe they don't like doing as much as this activity they're engaged in. So we will prepare them by saying, hey, just a heads up, you've got 1 more minute or 5 more minutes before the transition's about to happen. And then we get the child to acknowledge that they heard us by saying, making eye contact with us and saying, okay. Something as small as that, a tiny little step like that will prepare the child that a change is about to happen, a transition is about to happen, and will help execute that transition a lot smoother than if you just spring it on them. So if you've got a kiddo at home that struggles with being told in the moment, okay, this is at 7 o'clock, go brush your teeth, you could at 6:55 say, hey, just a heads up, you got 5 more minutes before it's going to be time to go brush your teeth. Have them acknowledge you, make eye contact with you, acknowledge you. And then when 7 o'clock comes, it's not going to be a surprise. It's not going to be unexpected. They've already been primed for it. So preparing that child for changes ahead of time is a huge tool that you can use at home to help affect transitions and to decrease problem behaviors. Use warnings, just like I talked, 5 more minutes. Some kids need a lot more than just 1 warning. We have kids that sometimes we'll give them the warning 10 minutes out and then 5 minutes out. And then we have some kids, for example, that have a hard time giving up their iPad and the timer's dwindling down. And then when we get to those last few seconds, we say, okay, 3, 2, 1, thank you. And we got the iPad from them without them tantruming, without them screaming, without them throwing the iPad. So you have to gauge where your child is and how much prompting, how much priming are they going to need to be able to affect the transition when it's time to do so. Keep expectations clear, even when the plans change. Again, this is going back to the example I gave where you've had a rotten day, you didn't notice it was 7 o'clock, and now it's 7:15, and now you got to prompt your kid. So you can say, hey, it's 7:15, I missed the 7 o'clock, so it's time to go brush your teeth. We're going to go through the same steps we go through every night. Go ahead, brush your teeth, and I'll come join you as soon as you get to your room and put your pajamas on. Pretty simple. Flexible behavior is very important. To be flexible, but maintaining the routine, maintaining the consistency, and having the structure be predictable. In other words, no matter what, this kid knows that there is going to be the expectation of brushing teeth. And I'm going to use this, obviously use this example throughout because it's just consistent, right? So they're going to know, and in the evening at some point, they're going to be prompted to brush their teeth, and that's going to kick off this routine. And it's the same. It may be flexible if mom's caught up on the phone and it's like 5 minutes late, or if mom has to go to bed particularly early and she starts 10 minutes early. But the consistency is there without it being rigid. Let's look a little bit more at this consistency versus rigidity little conversation we've been having. Consistency means you have the same expectations, right? So no matter at what time I give the prompt, because of life has happened and maybe it wasn't 7 o'clock, the expectations are going to be the same. The expectations is going to be that the teeth are going to get brushed, pajamas are going to get put on, and kiddo's going to go to bed. So that's consistency. That's not rigidity. Rigidity means absolutely no flexibility. Rigidity means that if the child says, Mom, there's only 2 minutes left on this show, can I please finish it before I go brush my teeth? Rigidity would be, no, you can't. I told you to go now. It's 7 o'clock. We do this at 7 o'clock every day, and I don't care that there's 2 more minutes. That would be rigidity. It means no flexibility, no ability to negotiate. Now, you've just told this kid he's got to go no matter what, even though they appropriately try to get 2 more minutes out of you. It's okay to adjust whatever it is you need to be doing, as long as you keep the expectations the same. So teeth are going to get brushed, right? That's the expectation. You have wiggle room to work with, but maintain that expectation. Mostly the same is good enough. It's enough. You don't have to be by the book, exactly the same every single time. I want you guys to be consistent, obviously, not rigid. Big difference. Staying consistent when routines are challenging. Inconsistent responses can increase challenging behavior. I'm going to give you an example of inconsistent responses. And I'm going to use something that my mentor used with me that just like really brought it home for me. Imagine going to a Coke machine back in the day where you can put money in, not the credit card. And you put money into the Coke machine and you push the button to get a bottle of Coke out, and nothing comes out. You took your money and you didn't get any Coke. You may try to do it one more time, right? You may put money in the second time and then you push the button. But if the Coke doesn't come out that second time, you're going to be so upset. You're going to be so mad. Some of us may even kick the machine. We're going to complain. Some of us may get so upset that we write down the 1-800 number to call to tell them that they took our money and didn't give us Coke, all because what you expected in terms of the response didn't happen. Okay? Now think of casinos, and think of going to a casino and putting money. Again, I'm dating myself, but this is back when we used cash, right? Same with the slot machine, right? You put money in a slot machine, you pull the lever, nothing happens. You don't get anything. You put the money in again, you pull the lever, nothing happens, but you just keep going. You're not upset. You don't kick the machine. You're not calling a 1-800 number to complain about how they took your money. Why? Because the response and the expectations were completely different. And that's what happens when there is not consistency in response. Our response to something inconsistent is very different from responses to a consistent situation. Inconsistent responses can increase challenging behaviors. Coke machine. It's inconsistent that the Coke machine didn't give us the Coke on the first try. So we're going to get really upset. Even when the routines change, keep expectations the same. I know I've hammered this all evening, but it's important that even if you have to be flexible, even if you have to adjust, even if you have to work things out a little bit different that evening, the expectation needs to remain the same. The reinforcer needs to be consistent. If every evening after your child brushes their teeth as you ask them to, If every evening you say, great job, I really love the way you brushed your teeth, and you gave that verbal praise, that needs to be consistent to where that child has access to that reinforcer from you every time that they complete that task. And do the follow through predictable. Your child shouldn't wonder what's going to happen once I get through this routine. Your child should be very clear on, once I get through this routine, mom's going to come to my room and read me a story. And then I may get 5 minutes on Netflix before lights out and I go to sleep. Very predictable. They know exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and they're going to access the reinforcer that they expect. If a routine becomes difficult, simplify it, right? So let's say we started a routine that had 10 steps, and now we're not getting what we want out of our kiddo. Our kiddo is having a really tough time with these 10 steps. Rather than removing the whole routine, make it a little simpler. A good example would be if you're teaching your child to put dirty clothes in the hamper, right? You wouldn't want to start out with a routine that involved dirty clothes in hamper, bring hamper to the laundry room, put the dirty clothes in the wash machine, add the detergent. That's a lot. That's a lot. So you may have thought your kid was ready for all those steps, but you realize very quickly, hey, this is way more involved than I imagined it was going to be. Scale it back. All we're going to do is take our clothes off to put pajamas on and put the dirty clothes in the hamper. That's it. So too difficult, no problem. Simplify it, but don't just remove the whole routine. Think of how often, and I'm just as guilty as anyone else, but I think of asking my kids to put the clothes in the dryer and then they didn't do it properly, or half the clothes got left in the wash machine, and I just got upset. And I said, okay, fine. I don't want you doing this anymore. You messed it up. You didn't put all the clothes in the dryer. Now I got to run the dryer. So the kid is now not having to do this chore at all. And unfortunately, what they learned is that if they do it the wrong way and then don't do it properly, they'll end up not having to do it anymore. And that's definitely not the lesson that I wanted them to learn from it. So simplify it, reduce the cost of the response involved, reduce the amount of steps, and then make sure you follow through and have the child complete the routine or the task at hand. I did that just because I was thinking about the slot machines and I thought it was kind of cute the way it was moving around, like, oh, I didn't get anything. What do we do when routines break down? Sometimes routines will fall apart. Sometimes you'll have great news or bad news, or something happened right at 7 p.m. when the evening routine was supposed to start and the routine fell apart completely. If the behaviors increase as a result of a routine falling apart, stay calm. Think of Christmas time when kids are allowed to stay up later than usual, and they're not, now all of a sudden you tell them to go to bed at 10 p.m., routine has broken down, and they look at you and go, I don't want to go right now. Stay calm. Stick to the routine as much as possible. I know it's 10 o'clock. I know you're tired. I know it's Christmas. I know we're not doing the 7 o'clock like we normally do, but I really need you to go ahead, go brush your teeth, and let's go and get ready for bed. Mommy's going to. Stay calm. Stick to the routine as much as possible. Reinforce the effort, not perfection. Again, you're just reinforcing the small baby steps. You're reinforcing that the child is even trying. You're not looking for perfection, like I was with the dryer in the example I gave earlier. The fact that they tried, did great. I'm so glad that you put some of the clothes in the dryer. Hey, let me show you something next time. Try to look all the way in the back because they get stuck there. So let's pull those out too and put them in the dryer. Again, a lot better than saying, oh my gosh, you did it all wrong, and now I have to do it again. I don't even want you in the laundry room anymore. You see the difference in these examples. Reinforce the effort, not looking for perfection. Reset, try again the next time. If you feel like you're too worked up and this is probably not the right time for you to deal with it, it's okay. The next time, do it again, calmer, gather yourself, and start over. It's okay. Consistency over time is a whole lot more important than this one day that you may have messed up. So even the example I gave with the dryer and my kids not doing it right and me getting upset, it's okay, because the next day or the next time laundry had to be done, it's a lot calmer. I said, hey, come down here. I want to show you something. Look, when you reach into the washer, I really want you to go all the way to the back because they get stuck there, and made it kind of fun, had a fun story to go with it about the lost socks. And I was able to teach my child how to get all of the clothes out of the dryer, out of the wash machine, put them in the dryer, instead of getting mad like I had the last time. So you can reset at any time, and you can set a routine and be consistent at any time. It doesn't matter how many times you messed up in the past. Doesn't matter how many times you tried and it didn't go. Today, tomorrow is a new day, and you can start all over and push the reset button, and your child will appreciate you for it. Consistency over time, a lot more important than just that one day. Oh my, I went so much quicker than I thought I was going to go, and I apologize, but maybe if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to respond to them. But what did we talk about today? We talked about routines creating predictability, and I know I hammered that point a lot about when you have a routine, everybody knows exactly what the expectations are, everybody knows exactly what the preferred outcomes are, everybody knows what the reinforcers are going to be once those routines are followed through. So it creates predictability, which gives us some sense of control, which makes us all as humans feel so much better. If we just know what's going to happen, there's a lot of comfort in that, a lot of comfort. Consistency strengthens learning. When you're consistent, you learn that certain things have to be done a certain way, and it strengthens your ability to engage. Think of this. Okay, you taught me this bednight routine, and now every time I follow the bednight routine or the bedtime routine, I get this reinforcement. I get mom to read me a book. I get mom to lay down with me for a few minutes before it's time to go to sleep. Well, the next routine you want to help me with and to teach me, I'm going to be very trusting that you're going to deliver a different kind or another reinforcer to me, and it's going to make me want to learn. It's going to make me want to continue to do what you expect me to do, because you've set me up for success through this one tiny routine that we started with, which was my bedtime routine. Reinforcement is everything. It keeps behavior going. This is true through our whole lives, has nothing to do with autism, has nothing to do with being a child or being on the spectrum. Reinforcement is what keeps us going to work. We go to work because we access a paycheck, and that paycheck allows us to buy things that we want and things that we need. Reinforcer keeps the behaviors going. That's what motivates us in our lives, is having that reinforcement. Small daily efforts, no matter how small they are, but these daily efforts that we put through, they lead to very big changes, baby steps. Small things eventually will lead to significant changes in behavior. If every time I brush my teeth, I get my mom to say, that's such a great job that you did, that's going to motivate me to want to do more and more and more. Think of also the example I gave with the check boxes, right? If you have a visual, checking something off made me feel really good. So it's going to make me want to feel good again. So I'm going to want to check things again. That's why checklists are so powerful, because they motivate us. We're looking for that reinforcing feeling that we felt when we were able to check something off. You are building lifelong skills. For something as simple as putting in a bedtime routine, you are actually building a lifelong skill in that child. They're learning valuable lessons. They're learning the comfort of routines, the comfort of some discipline in their lives, the comfort in consistency. Those are lifelong skills that are going to stay with your child forever. Next month, we're going to tackle something a little bigger and a little different. Not very different from last month if you think about it, but we're going to talk about how do you teach new skills? How do you teach your child to do something that's not in their repertoire? It's a skill that they don't currently have. And that's what we're going to focus on. I really appreciate you guys being here. It is so much fun for me to talk about ABA. I could do this all day, every day. I'm going to check now to see if there are any questions. Right. I don't see any questions. I really appreciate your attention. I really hope that you enjoyed and learned something from our presentation. I wish you all a very good night. And I know that in Wyoming right now, you guys have a blizzard going and it's cold and wintry, so please be safe. Bye.